Well, welcome everyone. This is our Building Smart Canada members community meeting for February 2017. We're pleased to be bringing you these meetings through our member community committee as well as the communications committee. If you have any questions, if you want to suggest any topics or presentations or speakers that you would like to hear from, or if you have any questions for us, feel free to contact us at information@ibc-bsc.ca. We're pleased to announce our guest today from the Société Québécoise des Infrastructures, the SQI, showing us the work that they've gone ahead in their BIM roadmap and integrated design, how they're implementing that for their projects in the province of Quebec. We welcome Guy Paquin as well as Steve Tremblay. Steve will do most of the presentation, and Guy is beside him. We might hear from him occasionally. We also want to thank them very much for giving us this presentation in English. We will work in a bilingual way. If you do have questions, you're in a webinar mode, which means you're on mute, but you can either raise your hand or you can type a question into the chat window. We will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, and you're welcome to enter those questions into the chat window throughout the presentation or at the very end. Donc, pour la communauté francophone, je pense que vous êtes bien, vous avez déjà entendu de la SQI, de qu'est-ce qu'ils font, leur démarche avec le BIM puis le PCI. Mais quand même, si vous avez des questions, c'est sûr que vous pouvez les faire en français. Nous avons des francophones ici. Puis on vous remercie pour votre collaboration selon le bilinguisme. Puis on voulait vraiment montrer à tout le monde en anglais, la communauté anglophone, ce qu'ils font au Québec. So for a little brief update, we're up to 436 members across Canada, with some international as well for Building Smart Canada. We're pleased to see that our numbers continue to grow. We continue to get more interest into the activities that we're doing. And we do have our affiliate program with local groups in BC, in Alberta, as well as across Quebec, and coming soon in Ontario, Atlantic, and Winnipeg and Saskatchewan. If you want to get involved with any of those affiliates, you can either do a Google search or you can send a request to us at the information email that will show again at the end. Our overall goal is to continue to build a national network of excellence for Canada's built environment. So without further ado, I'd like to pass it over to Steve. Thank you again, Steve and Guy, for presenting to us today. We're very excited to hear what you're doing in Quebec.
Thank you, Suzanne. Thank you, everyone in the BIM community in Canada to have us here today. So I'm here today to present you our BIM and integrated design journey so far. We are planning our deployment in many of our projects right now. So I'm going to show you our SQI roadmap to BIM. First of all, I would like to present maybe some information about the SQI. So the Société Québécoise des Infrastructures is part of the Quebec government, but is not the Quebec government. Our mission is dictated by the government, but we at the SQI are not necessarily speaking on behalf of the government. We are an organization inside the Quebec government going in this mission that I will present to you later. So The government of Quebec have deployed a directive for the management of public infrastructure for the major project. By major project, we hear over $5 million budget. At the SQI, this directive is illustrated by a major project process. That's, in fact, our sandbox. Why it's in this major project process that we work. We have some activities, some milestones to follow during the life cycle of the project. So this is where we work. But the SQI has a twofold mission. First of all, facility management. So we are a owner and operator of over 550 properties. And on the other side, we're a project manager for the government. So we are managing right now about many projects that come to a total of $5.3 billion. And we're involved in some projects in partnership with other public organizations for over $23 billion. So maybe we'll begin with a little history of integrated practices at the SQI. So as a highlight for us, there's three sides or three things very important inside the integrated practices. So there's the integrated design process that is a collaborative and interdisciplinary approach. There's the BIM that takes the technologies, and once the team are well in place and the collaboration is there, we can bring the BIMs to get farther in the benefit. And also there's the organization side, so the delivery mode that we're using. We're working with a lot of delivery modes. So we have to take this as a whole. We began to bring integrated design in the project since a few years now. It became important to have those notions with the development principles, so the lead principle. The integrated design is applied in the call for tenders for major projects in 2009 now, and the SQI is interested in the potential since 2010. So we're searching and we're testing some things, in the project since 2010. We were at this time more in the exploratory mode. We had some projects since 2011. We had some good, some bad. We had a lot of experience in those projects. So it became clear for us at this time that to have a real benefit to achieve the full potential of BIM in the project, we had to create a deployment committee and get the deployment more structured, more organized to achieve those goals. Currently, what we were able to see during those projects is that the management frameworks for the BIM and integrated design was incomplete. We had to more organize those requirements. So at the beginning, these requirements were insufficient. So those projects were not truly integrated and based on real desire to establish new collaborative mode. So that was the conclusion for the first project that we had at the SQI. As a result of this, much effort were invested and expected benefits are not achieved. So in the planning committee, the strategic committee, we had to follow some steps as we do in the project. So we had to put at the for the decision level strategic planning. So we had to look for the business needs confirmation. We had to do an international benchmarking, which we made closely with the grid at the ETF at Montreal. So we worked with many people in the industry to get those information. We had to define the scenario where we want to go with the deployment and get the approbation to go further with it. Once this step was achieved, we had to get to the implementation planning. So this is the part we made since the two last year, I would say. This objective was the optimization of the deployment scenario, specify the cost and benefits. So we have to know what it's going to cost to bring those new approach in the project and what we can have some benefits after this. We had the approval decision from the decision level at the SQI in May 2016. So the deployment, the official deployment took place in May 2016. Since then, we are starting we're starting some projects, mini projects that I will present you later. So this is to get the roadmap so actively in deployment since May 2016. This is in high level our roadmap. So we choose to go to the deployment in a step-by-step option. We don't want to go all the way, all the BIM use at the very beginning, without that this was leading us to many effort and not so benefits. So we chose to go about this year and the years to come into the integrated design process and the 3D coordination. That's the baseline for our deployment. After this, like you can see there an illustration of what it's for us, the integrated design and the coordination in 3D. We have to put teams together to work together, create the synergy, and we have to work based on model creation. So this is on the right side, our illustration for the evolution of different models during the life cycle of the project. So we have some milestones. We have to go through the construction phases. So that's the deployment we're putting to right now. Maybe a little word about the open BIM and the requirements for the deliverable. We chose in the deployment not to point or choose a tool to work. So we are not forcing the architect, the engineers to work in some format or in some tools that we want to receive. We are basing our deployment on the open BIM format. So during the conception phase, we want to see the models. We want to get the team collaborate based on BCF. During the call for tender for construction phase, we are asking to receive IFC models and so on until the end of the project, where at this time we have to receive also IFC models or open BIM models and native models to put in her archive and to prepare the evolution and the 7D or the exploitation phase. Some words about the integrated design process, not to mismatch with the high PD, which is the delivery mode. In the integrated design process, we see it as an approach and collaborative, multidisciplinary and process. We aim to generate more efficient, integrated, optimal, innovative, and sustainable solutions. The goals behind the integrated design is a consensus-based decision based on common objectives, optimized design solutions, client and user satisfaction, sustainable development, and energy efficiency. That's the goal where we are aiming there. And on the other side, with the 3D coordination and the BIM, we see it as a visual coordination and clash detection. Not only clash detection, that's very important. We want to base the meeting, the coordination, the collaboration, communication based on model. We want the team to work in the visual coordination before to get to the clash detection. We see it as the quality control that is developed by the professional or the architects, the engineers on the project. It's an important communication tool for us to get all the stakeholders involved in the deployment of the BIM. So our clients, the team inside of the SQI that have to follow the project, we want to get all those people to get together. And for the 3D coordination, our goals are interdisciplinary coordination, a reduction in quantity and reduction of the quantity and the value of the change order, and the reduction of delays in construction. So to get through those goals, those objectives, we have to deploy some documentation, some tools that will help us achieve all those goals. So we developed at the SQI application guide for BIM and integrated design. We developed a standard execution plan for BIM and also for integrated design. We had to review our contractual documentation to get the teams more to be able to achieve the objective, and we're putting in place a collaborative platform so we can get all the stakeholders to get involved and in touch with the models and the communication. Maybe just to have an idea of how we want to deploy or where will the roadmap will bring us. The integrated design will be involved in all of the major projects in the SQI. And on the other side, for the 3D BIM, the BIM coordination, we want to deploy this approach on about 15 to 20 major projects during the 5 following years. And once we will be able to have a good foundation, good base on the integrated design and 3D coordination, we will be able to bring some BIM use, some additional BIM use to get at this time more benefits and to get further with the BIM deployment. Those are the year we are expecting to be in the systematic deployment of those different BMUs across the years. I was talking few minutes ago about the BIM documentation. So we have the BIM guide. So this is the BIM guidelines for the SQI. We're putting in this document the standard requirements. So we are explaining her history, where we are going with the BIM deployment. We are defining some definition, our goals, the BIM scope. So right now at this time we are speaking about existing condition, design, and 3D coordination. To this, we had the contractual documentation. So we're telling at the teams, the architect, the engineers, their roles and responsibilities, the deliverables we are looking for, the collaboration we're looking for too, and the complementary approaches. So there's the integrated design, there's the BIM, and also there's lean on some project we are involved to. And finally, to complete those two first documents, we have the BIM execution plan, which you certainly already know. But we have this this document now developed for each of the project we are deploy, where we deploy the BIM on. So there's the BIM execution plan are divided on three different books. So we're having first of all the general requirements. After this, we can sit with all the team, all the stakeholders, and get to the deployment plan in the project. And after this, we have the modeling organization, so the best modeling practices. Those are the table of contents for the three different books in the BIM execution plan. So surely hard to read right now, but if you can get the presentation later, you will be able to see how the documents are organized. So that's it so far. That was the content that I had to share with you today. Sorry for my English. I hope that was clear enough for us to understand.
Steve, I want to add, excuse my English. My English is worse than the English of Steve. But I want to add 2 points. For us, BIM and integrated design are intimately linked and not separable. Collaboration is the anchor stone of our corporate deployment, and it's the first ingredient of our soft project. And we didn't decide about the roadmap only by ourselves. We keep a constant collaboration and discussion with the large part of the construction industry in Quebec, and we talk with order and association of engineer, architect, and contractor, and specialized contractor, and many groups of interest involved in the deployment of the BIM in Quebec. And this is the secret of, I think, our deployment, because we heard the industry, construction industry, and these told us that yes, we claim in our project, and but your deployment has to be progressive and in accordance with the increasing of the maturity in the construction industry in Quebec. Yes.
Okay.
That's all.
Thank you, Guy. Thank you, Steve, very much for the presentation. We have a couple of questions. So I'll start it off with, of course, the perennial question around contractual mechanisms. And you mentioned IPD a bit in your technology organization and process dimensions. What is the thought process around modifying contracts and procurement at the SQI to support a more integrative approach for the development of the projects, including BIM?
I will translate for Guy.
Excuse me, Eric, because when you talk to me in English, please talk more slow. Because,
yeah, no worries.
I didn't understand anything.
Pas de problème, je vais la poser en français. On parle aussi ici au niveau des modes contractuels, donc vous avez un plan pour les processus, pour les technologies, au niveau des modes contractuels, sachant que le BIM, ça rime dans un milieu intégré. C'est quoi vos pensées là-dessus, puis vos stratégies?
Okay, here in Quebec, the Quebec government tried the approach PPP for some project, some very big project, especially in Montreal, and I think there is here in Quebec, I don't know, the return of the balance about the perception of the PPP, and many people in government are presently very afraid about PPP. But we start with this context, and here the SQE was involved in many projects, and the approach is to realize project with traditional mode. I don't know, Eric, is the right word?
Yeah.
In this context too, we have to move to use more alternative mode in our realization. And we are trying to reach and to reach this goal. We know that we alternative modes are the best way to get more benefit, but it's a very, very big change, and we are working on that. And the ciel, comment tu dis le ciel?
Sky.
The heaven is the approach IPD, but we didn't reach this heaven next year, but we have to change many reglementation and law. I don't know, but we work on these problems.
So it's a work in progress. So you've started out with the low-hanging fruit and are moving towards the more complex issues. There's a question here around.
Okay. Okay.
There's a question here around smart city strategies, and I guess it's a bit of a maybe a complicated question because of the fact that the municipal government and provincial governments are separate entities. Is there any thought about integrating smart city approaches into your BIM and IDP documentation or approach, je vais la poser en français, au niveau des villes intelligentes. On parle de villes intelligentes ici, puis sachant que le palier municipal et le palier provincial sont séparés, est-ce qu'il y a avez-vous commencé à penser à intégrer la notion de ville intelligente dans vos livrables et dans vos projets?
Écoute, Eric, si tu permets, je vais te la répondre en français, puis ça traduira parce que je veux pas faire de faux pas. Nous, actuellement, on a assez quand même de travail à déployer le BIM au sein de notre organisation, puis au sein, je dirais, là, une bonne partie de projets publics dans lesquels on est concerné, parce que il y a deux gros donneurs d'ouvrages publics qui sont la SQI et le ministère des Transports. Les transports étant dans le projet de routier et nous dans le bâtiment. Alors, on a beaucoup à faire là. Sauf que on va quand même, je dirais, faire des présentations. Tu vois, on a une présentation qui a été faite récemment avec la Ville de Montréal. On en a une autre là avec la Ville de Montréal, encore à très haut niveau, qui doit être faite sous peu. Récemment, encore là, je répondais à une demande d'aller faire une présentation devant des ingénieurs municipaux. Oui, on fait on aide, mais on peut pas prendre ça sur notre charge. C'est pas notre mandat.
Mm-hmm. Okay, to translate the response is yes, it's on the radar, it's on the map, but it's not part of their mandate because it's a provincial and it's the provincial and the municipal jurisdiction. However, there are discussions, and Guy was saying that they're talking to the city of Montreal around how to integrate smart city approaches and so forth. So it's on the radar, but it's not. They have to concentrate on BIM and delivering good projects, and that's the first step, and they're already doing a lot. So we have a question here around what are some examples of the deliverables listed in the contractual documents, and how much difference is there between those deliverables and what the contractors actually use on site? So a two-part question, which I'll translate. C'est quoi les livrables que vous exigez qui sont au niveau contractuel? C'est quoi la différence entre les livrables que vous recevez et ce qui est utilisé en chantier? Ou est-ce qu'il est trop tôt pour le dire?
Non, je vais te répondre en français encore une fois. Eric, ça va être plus simple, tu pourras traduire.
Ouais.
Les livrables qu'on a ou qu'on exige à l'heure actuelle, comme je le disais un petit peu plus tôt dans la présentation, le gros morceau à l'intérieur de notre démarche, c'est d'aller en appel d'offres pour construction avec des maquettes faisant partie des documents contractuels. Donc, ils sont nécessairement encore aujourd'hui plus bas dans la priorisation. Les plans 2D demeurent prioritaires, mais nous allons inclure et nous incluons les maquettes comme documents contractuels déposés en appel d'offres, donc rendus disponibles aux entrepreneurs. Par la suite, lorsqu'on arrive à l'étape de construction, on remet ces maquettes-là ou ces modèles aux entrepreneurs et ces éléments-là deviennent la base pour la création de ce qu'on va appeler les maquettes de construction. Donc là, on met la priorité sur la modélisation pour coordonner les travaux préalablement à la construction. Donc, le gros livrable, le gros exigence contractuelle qu'on a est sur le livrable en appel d'offres. Et à la suite des travaux, nous avons un livrable final qui est justement pour préparer les futurs projets, pour préparer l'exploitation lorsqu'on sera rendu là, mais des maquettes à jour telles que construites, qui sont une représentation réelle de ce qui aurait été construit sur le site.
Okay, so to translate, the deliverables that are asked right now are coordinated models. Puis Steve, c'est en format IFC?
En appel d'offres pour construction, oui, c'est le format IFC.
Okay. So right now they're asking for IFC coordinated models for the tender process. However, that being said, it's the 2D contract documents that are contractual. The model is there for reference. And at the end of the project, they're asking for an as-built model. Encore sous format IFC ou est-ce que vous demandez des fichiers natifs?
On va demander les deux formats. Puis juste pour préciser que tu viens de mentionner qu'ils sont là à titre de référence, mais c'est pas le cas. On veut vraiment qu'ils ne soient pas considérés comme seulement des références, mais qu'ils fassent partie intégrante des documents contractuels, mais qui sont seulement sous une priorité moindre côté que les plans 2D.
Okay, so my mistake. I misspoke about the fact that actually the 2D documents and the model also they're looking at the model as a contractual mechanism also. So they're pushing for professionals to not see the model as something that's separate from the 2D documents, and so that it's a very sort of consolidated package. And I guess I have a follow-up question to that. There's a lot of questions here around that particular aspect. One would be, how do you ensure and what are the mechanisms in place at the SQI to make sure that the whole package is sort of aligned or is consistent? Je vais la traduire en français. C'est quoi les mécanismes en place pour s'assurer du fait que la maquette ainsi que les plans 2D sont tous alignés puis qui sont consistants dans le fond, sont arrimés?
Mm-hmm. Ben, tout ça repose sur le processus de coordination 3D qu'on met en place. Il faut comprendre aussi que à la base, les plans 2D sont extraits directement des maquettes, donc ça aide aussi à joindre les deux et à aligner les deux ensemble. Mais à l'intérieur du processus de coordination 3D qu'on met en place, le fait qu'on veut que les maquettes soient mises de l'avant, qu'ils soient vues tout au long de leur progression selon l'avancement de la conception, ça nous aide à s'assurer par la suite. Et c'est une question aussi de responsabiliser aussi les équipes. À l'intérieur, c'est très clair à l'intérieur des mandats des firmes que les maquettes seront déposées puis qu'il faut qu'il y ait une bonne coordination qui soit faite interdisciplinaire. Donc, ça responsabilise tout le monde. Et ça fait que ça nous permet, oui, d'espérer qu'arrivé en appel d'offres, nous aurons des documents très bien alignés. Puis là, on pourrait aborder le sujet des usages autorisés ou de l'authentification de la fiabilité. Donc, ce qu'on a convenu avec les firmes, ma réponse est un petit peu longue, mais ce qu'on a convenu avec les firmes de professionnels, avec les firmes d'architecture et des firmes d'ingénierie, c'est que il allait partager les maquettes, qu'il allait publier les maquettes en appel d'offres selon un usage autorisé. Donc, comprenant que dans un premier temps, on dépose les maquettes où on fait un déploiement du BIM spécifiquement pour assurer une bonne coordination 3D interdisciplinaire, ben, c'est l'usage autorisé des maquettes qui est transmis aux soumissionnaires lors des appels d'offres. Donc, ça vient un peu sécuriser toutes les équipes pour s'assurer de dire, bon, ben, allons de l'avant, il faut partager cette information-là, il faut déposer les maquettes en appel d'offres, mais on comprend qu'on vient encadrer quand même leur utilisation et qu'après ça, suite à ça, le soumissionnaire qui récupère les modèles ou les maquettes, ben, peut bien sûr les utiliser comme bon lui semble, mais il est quand même tenu à l'intérieur de cet usage-là à dire, bon, ben, si j'ai décidé d'en faire autre chose que simplement regarder l'organisation spatiale des équipements ou des éléments modélisés, ben, c'est à mon risque et j'en tiendrai pas rigueur aux professionnels par la suite.
Cette diffusion-là, par usage autorisé, c'est le terrain d'entente qu'on a convenu officiellement avec les architectes et les ingénieurs. Parce que sinon, on allait nulle part, là.
Donc, c'est un peu aussi le principe de l'addenda contractuel IBC là, qui travaille par utilisation de maquettes autorisées.
Oui, tout à fait.
So, talking about the sort of the mechanisms in place to ensure that the package is coherent between 2D documents and the model, they really rely on the authorized uses. That are part of the IBC contract appendix. Also has that principle that for now. For the time being, the models are authorized. The authorized uses are only around visual, spatial sort of visualization and 3D coordination. So stuff like quantity takeoffs is not an authorized use yet, and therefore should a contractor use a model for uses that are not authorized, it is at his own risks. That being said, during the development of the project and all throughout the project development phase for design, there are regular checks and balances, and the whole 3D coordination process that they have developed ensures that a higher quality or a higher standard of model and sort of accompanies the development of the model. We have questions here around developing the standards within SQI around, have you looked at existing standards to develop the framework, notably the UK and Australian standards. Donc, si je traduis, dans le développement de vos standards, avez-vous regardé ce qui se passe notamment au Royaume-Uni et en Australie pour le développement des standards à la SQI?
La réponse simple, c'est oui. Nous avons fait quand même le tour d'horizon de tout ce qu'il y avait à l'international, de tout ce qu'il y a comme documentation de standards et autres. Ce qu'il faut comprendre, par contre, c'est qu'au niveau de la SQI, à l'heure actuelle, on laisse encore beaucoup de place aux différentes équipes, aux firmes impliquées dans les projets, à utiliser. Là, si on se ramène à des standards de modélisation, on leur laisse beaucoup d'espace de ce côté-là. On n'a pas encore établi spécifiquement, nous, des standards de modélisation propres à la SQI. Ça va venir plus tard lorsqu'on va être rendu à l'élément d'exploitation, à l'élément de récupération d'informations plus précises. On n'en est pas là encore, on y réfléchit, on a des comités qui travaillent là-dessus, mais pour le moment, il n'y a pas de standard de modélisation très clairement défini. Mais tous ces aspects-là, autant pour le plan d'exécution BIM que notre guide d'application, nous avons quand même regardé ce qui se faisait à l'international et nous sommes quand même inspirés de ces approches-là. Et je vous dirais que ce qui se rapproche le plus de notre démarche à l'heure actuelle, c'est les guidelines qui sont développés peut-être en Finlande ou en Norvège, qui se rapprochent vraiment beaucoup de notre contexte.
So yes, short answer, yes, of course, they did look and as Steve mentioned, that there was a big effort to look at international BIM deployment guidelines and standards that was done in 2015. What they're looking at is that there's no modeling standard per se, so there's not, they don't prescribe a specific, classification scheme or so forth. That being said, they do rely on IFC, so I mean that's a standard in and of itself. They leave it up to the teams to make sure that the models are coordinated and that they are speaking the same language. And in terms of approach, Steve was mentioning that this approach, looking at model uses, sort of mirrors that was done by Finnish standards, the COBIM standards in Finland, and the Norwegian standards. So that would be the main resource. I guess that we've answered most of the questions that are here. We still have 15 minutes. If anybody else has some questions that they'd like to ask, I'll leave 2 or 3 minutes to write them down. And while we wait, I have a question around, so what's next for the SQI in terms of, you have your first official projects that were launched in May. How are you guys validating the work that's being done? Si je pose la question en français, là, depuis mai 2016 ou avril 2016, vous avez commencé c'est rendu un peu plus officiel. Comment est-ce que vous allez faire la rétroaction puis consolider les leçons apprises puis peut-être diffuser ça à l'industrie?
Dans tous les projets, de façon standard, on a des étapes de leçons apprises. Bien sûr que maintenant qu'avec l'introduction du BIM du PCI, on va continuer à faire tout ça. On a un groupe de support, une cellule de développement et de soutien qui est pilotée par Steve, qui va s'assurer de faire le suivi de tout ça. Et puis on a une direction du déploiement des pratiques intégrées que, dans le fond, Vous devriez voir d'ici quelques jours là, un avis de recherche d'une personne pour occuper ce poste-là. Vous devriez voir ça. Alors, le suivi des bénéfices fait partie des tâches qui doivent être faites là-dedans. Et puis, tout ça s'intègre dans notre déploiement selon notre feuille de route. Dans le fond, on l'a vu tantôt, la feuille de route, on l'a établi en fonction de ce que l'industrie nous disait. Et puis, on n'a pas le choix de rester toujours en contact et puis d'avoir une rétroaction, je dirais, en continu. Parce que notre objectif, là, pas notre objectif, je dirais, notre position, c'est pas de penser qu'on a fait parfait et qu'on peut pas ajuster. Notre position, c'est, regarde, on y va, et puis, oui, en rétroaction, on va s'ajuster.
So yes, there are mechanisms in place to have a continuous feedback. They actually have a steering committee within the SQI that's looking at the deployment here. They're actually looking for a director. If I'm not mistaken, there's so if anybody's interested, there is going to be a job posting coming up to look at integrated practices and BIM at the SQI. So to lead that steering committee, if I'm not mistaken. And so it's a regular part of the process at SQI to do feedbacks and project postmortems. That being said, now they're gonna look at specifically BIM and IDP as a process. There are two more questions here before we end. One is, are your guidelines available for free circulation online? Donc, est-ce que les guides sont disponibles ou comment est-ce qu'on peut les obtenir?
Sur demande. Bien sûr, on pourrait les partager avec la communauté, ça c'est sûr. Peut-être en passant par Building Smart ou par la communauté de pratique. Bientôt aussi, ils vont être disponibles sur le site web de la DSQI. C'est pas encore le cas, mais ça s'en vient sous peu.
Okay. So the documents, the guidelines will be available on the website shortly, but Steve did mention that he would be willing to share it through our network, the Building Smart Canada. So we'll touch base, and it might be part of the next newsletter. We'll have a link for you guys to download the guidelines. They are in French. Google Translate is your friend. In this case, est-ce qu'ils sont traduits, les documents, ou sont juste en français?
Seulement en français.
Okay. So yeah, only in French, but Google Translate is your friend. And here we have okay, there's a couple of questions coming in. One is, what was the first step to getting the government to accept, I'm saying BIM for projects? C'était quoi la première étape que vous avez mis en place pour, mettons, faire accepter le BIM à l'intérieur de l'organisme?
Ouais, dans le fond, on a appris par rapport à Alberta, par exemple, c'est qu'il fait le déploiement qu'on souhaitait faire, mais il fallait le faire porter de façon corporative pour assurer une pérennité. Alors, dans cette approche-là, on a pris la même approche de réalisation de dossiers d'affaires, cette approche de dossier d'affaires qui est utilisée actuellement au niveau de l'ensemble du gouvernement pour les projets majeurs d'infrastructure. Ça veut dire pour à peu près les 28 milliards de projets, à peu près, là, il y a cette approche de dossier d'affaires. Donc, on a utilisé la même approche, c'est-à-dire un premier dossier d'opportunité qui a regardé un peu, qui a fait le benchmarking, qui a regardé au niveau stratégique, comme l'a mentionné ici, tantôt, on avait une diapo là-dessus. Puis la deuxième étape, on a raffiné tout notre projet, qui est le dossier d'affaires final. Et puis, c'est ça qui a été les étapes qui a fait qu'on a diffusé largement, puis il y a eu une adhésion de la haute direction. Parce qu'on ne peut pas avoir juste un projet comme ça qui est porté par un ou deux individus, parce que dans toute la rencontre qu'on fait avec les partenaires, je disais, on a peut-être 40, 50 partenaires qu'on rencontre, ça prend un appui fort de la haute direction, parce que moi, je ne peux pas me présenter devant ces associations-là, puis dire qu'on s'en va de l'avant alors que je ne suis pas appuyé par la haute direction. Alors, la clé, c'est l'appui par la haute direction et de monter un dossier très sérieux. D'ailleurs, il y a plusieurs organisations qui nous ont demandé actuellement de leur transférer notre dossier parce qu'eux veulent utiliser la même approche.
So, in terms of the steps that were taken at SQI to actually initiate the transition or the BIM adoption and implementation process, Guy mentioned that the most important was in the government setting to get buy-in from the upper levels of government. And so the SQI has in place a gating approach to their projects where they have to develop an opportunity statement and then a business plan. And so the key was really getting a good opportunity statement that lays out sort of the framework and the benefits and risks and so forth to get the buy-in at the upper levels. That was for Guy, that was really key in getting that buy-in, and of course getting through that gating process where there was go no goes at each step of the way. So it was a longer process, but it ensured that none of this came as a surprise and was really successful. So very strategic in the approach. On a une dernière question ici au niveau de la coordination avec les organismes pour arrimer à la documentation. Donc, on parle de groupe BIM Québec ou Building Smart. Question around coordinating with groups across Canada, namely Groupe BIM Québec and Building Smart Canada for documentation. What is the effort underway to include those groups in that effort? C'est quoi les efforts qui sont en place pour arrimer le développement des guides et de la documentation avec ces groupes-là?
Ben, par exemple, dans le cadre du déploiement, dans le cadre de la réflexion qui était préalable au déploiement, bien sûr, le groupe BIM Québec, on est impliqué en tant que membre à l'intérieur de ça. J'avais eu l'occasion de faire une présentation aussi au groupe BIM Québec, mais là où il y a une implication un petit peu plus forte ou très intéressante qui est le fun à partager, c'est que j'ai parlé plutôt du processus de coordination 3D. Lorsqu'on était à l'intérieur de la rédaction de nos guides, on a quand même fait des ateliers pratiques, on a fait des ateliers en réunissant des joueurs de l'industrie, des joueurs qui sont déjà très avancés dans le BIM. On a passé par le groupe BIM Québec pour rassembler une équipe de personnes pour en arriver à leur proposer notre processus qu'on était en train de mettre en place, le valider avec eux, le regarder pour en arriver à un consensus de l'industrie, non pas juste une vision de la SQI par rapport à ce que devrait être le processus de coordination 3D. Donc, c'est un peu le travail qu'on fait avec Groupe BIM Québec ou avec d'autres organisations, entre autres la table multisectorielle ou la chaire de recherche Pomerleau aussi à Montréal ou ici à Québec.
So Steve was mentioning that in developing the guidelines and the standards, it's not done in a vacuum. So, namely, in the development of the 3D coordination guidelines, they had a number of workshops with industry practitioners to ensure that what they were developing made sense and was actually grounded in industry practice. He also mentioned that they rely, of course, they have a good partnership with academics, namely the GRID, which is at the ETS, l'École de technologie supérieure in Montreal, as well as the research chair Pomerleau on BIM and integrated practices. So a good balance between alignment with academics and alignment with industry to develop this, and which according to Steve is key to the success. So we're at the end of the questions, and we're at the end of our time. Susan, I'll send it back to you to close out the presentation. Donc, on est arrivé à la fin de notre présentation. Steve, Guy, merci énormément, puis je laisse à Suzanne de fermer la rencontre.
Thanks, Eric, and thanks again, Guy and Steve. Just to let our audience know, our next meeting in 1 month's time, scheduled for March 29th, we're pleased to announce Cry Bachman works now at Dialogue here in Canada. He's someone who spent 8 years at 2 different practices in the UK, has returned to Canada, it was around June 2016. He's very very well versed in the experience and the standards knowledge for the UK's BIM Level 2, and he'll talk to us a bit on his experience with that and bring us up to speed on how that has gone over the time that he was there and even up to today. Particularly, he worked with BIM for the local governments group there, so we'll be interested to hear some of that detail as well. There will be information sent as usual for this meeting through our newsletters. And again, for any future presentations, we do try our best to balance between Canadian-focused projects or clients or other initiatives happening in Canada compared to what's happening abroad. Certainly we're constantly looking abroad at the precedents being set there to try and learn from. So we are really trying to balance those two. Again, if you have any specific requests either for topics or for speakers, do send us a message at information@ibc-bsc.ca. Special thanks to Eric for hosting the session and hosting the question period. Great day to everybody. Thanks again to the SQI. Bye for now.